Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson, this is Full Time Devils, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Tony Park, Manchester United youth author and historian and author of a great book talking about Manchester United. The link is in the description below, so make sure you check that out, and he's going to bring it next time he's on so we can have a talk about that as well. But today we're here to talk about AIDY BARLOW, a little bit of a player profile on one of the most exciting players in the under-18s. Tony, he sort of took on the season at the end of it all on his own, didn't he?
Yeah, it's interesting. He's been on the peripheral for some time now. Last season he was captain of the under-16s and he was very, very mature. He was even to the point of sporting a little goatee as the season going on. How 16-year-old kids can grow beards is totally beyond me, but anyway. And he was incredibly mature in a very young team. And then I don't know if you remember, it's certainly all over YouTube, and if anybody gets a chance to go on YouTube and see the goal, against Newcastle last season, he did this incredible flick over the defender near the left-hand corner flag, and then squeezed it, and then ran towards goal, towards the 6-yard box, and squeezed the ball past the keeper for an absolutely wonderful goal that had everybody, even the supporters watching the 18s on the next pitch, turned around to applaud. It was such an amazing goal, and since that point I thought, I'm going to be really interested watching his progress as he moves into the under-18s this season. The great thing about AIDY, he's a local boy, he's from Salford, and it's been many, many years since we've had a Salford lad come through the system, and that's always nice, having a youth player come from our heritage locally. But for the first half of the season, as he said, Stephen, he was kind of on the peripheral because he had to wait for his chances with the likes of Gomez playing so well, Chong playing so well, Boonen playing so well, DJ Buffon's playing so well. And when he did get on, in the first half of the season, he only made 2 full appearances and I think 7 or 8 substitute appearances, but still scored a couple of goals. And he was that type of player who you could bring on when things were a little bit tight towards the end of the game, or if we were winning, to bring someone on to give other players rests. And he did an incredible job for us, and he was great. And he can play up front, he can play in midfield, he can play in the 8 or the 10 role if you want him to play there. So he's very versatile. He's quick, got an eye for goal. I think he's also a little bit gritty, if you know what I mean. If someone tries to push him about, he'll get stuck in.
He's Salford, mate.
He's a Salford boy, and as a consequence, he balances the team. Or sorry, I'll put it the other way around. The team doesn't lose any balance having injuries to some of those other players when he comes into the side.
You mentioned the goal that he scored, which is phenomenal. I'm sure most of you have seen it. If you've not, you can just copy the spelling of his name and go and find it. Goal versus Newcastle. It's ridiculous. It's a walk-away KO. It's unbelievable. But that's not his game for me. His game for me is that relentless determination that we've seen characterised by Rashford, that we've seen in Joe Riley. There's a couple of players at United, and I don't know how they're breeding this into them, that have just got this dogged determination that there's no such thing as a 50-50 ball. There's no such thing as a lost cause. You see Rashford putting pressure on goalkeepers all the time, and centre-halves, when they think they should have time on the ball, nope. And Barlow's got that pace and that determination that he just dogs anybody down. And I think that is going to be the same with Riley as well. And I think to an extent Rashford, that's going to be the one thing that elevates him above what maybe his skill level does, is because people will go, well, I'll take a risk on this kid because he's not going to shrink, and he's going to put maximum effort into everything.
I think what you've described, and you can add Jesse Lingard into that equation as well, is you had players at 16 who were very small. And Barlow's not a big player. Gomez isn't a big player. Joe Riley wasn't a big player. Marcus Rashford was very slight. He wasn't as tall as he is now. Jesse Lingard was incredibly diminutive. So what those players had to do is they had to look after themselves on the pitch. They weren't going to get around the pitch being brilliant footballers if they weren't prepared to work hard and put a little bit of grit into the game. And then as they start to get more physical and they start to grow up, they haven't lost that mentality. And that's what you're seeing now, is you're seeing Barlow with that same mentality that he's had throughout his junior career, where he's a fighter. And as you mentioned, he's got his backgrounds from locally, and Salfordians are fighters. So he's got everything in his game from an attitudinal perspective. Now he's showing it on the pitch and he's doing great. And then what you saw with Gomez being injured for the second half of the season, or February time, he was brought into the team. He went to the 5-a-side tournament and was playing quite regularly in that to help us win that tournament over in Germany. And then he was then playing regularly. He played 6 or 8 games as a starter and a couple of games, and he scored 8 or 10 goals in the second half of the season. So he certainly knows where the back of the net is. He scored a hat-trick against Newcastle, which was a wonderful hat-trick. And he's got this confidence where he can strike a ball from distance as well, and he can really whack it. And I don't know if you remember seeing in the first or the second merit group game against Liverpool, we were 2-0 down, and he came off the bench and scored both goals, and both of those goals were absolute belters. And so he's got that ability to change the game.
That's the pace and that determination. Like you saw it with Tevez occasionally in the first team. That you might have an ultimately classy player in Berbatov, but when someone's just going to chase every single ball, that can raise everybody else in the team, and that can have a tremendous effect off the bench, I think.
Well, he doesn't play slowly; he plays with tempo, and and Gomez can play with tempo, but you'll understand what I mean. Gomez can take his foot off the gas and slow the whole game down. Barlow doesn't tend to do that because he's got that aggressive attacking nature where he wants to maintain this tempo all the time to play football, and he clearly loves the game, and he's always got a smile on his face when you see him walking around Carrington. He's always got a football at his feet, and I think he's one of those ones that's just off the radar a little bit, and then all of a sudden in the second half of the campaign he's just on the pitch. He's done it, and so I was absolutely delighted when he was called up into the England under-17 squad. You could argue that if Angel had made it, he would never have got a slight for it. But he came off the bench against Ukraine, I think, and scored a goal within 3 minutes of coming on. He only played 10 or 15 minutes, but he came off, had a crack at goal, scored a goal on his England debut. So
he does have that knack of popping up in the right place at the right time, doesn't it? I mean, that goal against Newcastle, that's not a rare thing for him. No. He pops up in the right place. He just seems to ghost into places, and his finishing is fantastic as well, I think. Well,
he's got that composure. He does, like many of the other players we've been talking about. He's not intimidated in any stretch by other players. He's not intimidated by where he is in terms of the goal. He's not intimidated in terms of other senior players screaming for the ball, and he thinks the better option is to hold on to it and lay it off somewhere else or have a chance. And I think that puts the defences under incredible pressure because they're not sure what's going to happen. We've talked about this before about vanilla football, and everybody's passing and passing. So defences, no, they're going to pass it around. With AIDY, they don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to shoot? Is he going to pass it? Is he going to run through them? And he can do all three. Is he going to do a trick? I think next season, when he's clearly going to be one of the more senior scholars in the academy, I think it's going to be exciting because he will be in that team regularly pushing. I mean, he's even had an under-23 cameo at Chelsea this year as well. So already he's people know he's around. I think he's very exciting. I like his attitude. He's been under the radar, but I think he's one for people to watch.
Potential-wise, do you think there's... I personally think it's probably a little too soon for talking a first team or a loan, but potential-wise, how highly do you think he can go? How high do you think he can reach?
He had a great 16 season last season. I think he's had a great 18s this season, culminating in his England call-up, which I just think is fabulous for him and for the club. Because the last few seasons, we've not had a lot of representatives with some of the international squads. So it's fabulous that he's got a chance, and he's not looking out of place, which says something. I think next season will tell. I can't see him anywhere near the first team next season, but I think in 2017-18, if he has a good under-18 campaign, then watch him go.
All right, thank you very much, Tony. So, AIDY BARLOW, go and check him out, and let's see what next season can bring for him. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, get your comments in. Any questions? Who else would you like us to profile next? And we'll see you later.